Hello, everybody. Can you hear me nicely? All right. Last time we looked at something very important. We were looking at the business cycle, and we were saying that economists they do not. That was the I gave you the most important statement that I will need you to always say. Economies don't grow at a constant rate. That's a myth. Economies move through periods of growth and periods of decline. So they keep going through cycles and cycles and cycles. They grow, they boom. Then after booming, they start to recess. After recession, they go through a slump, then recovery. Stuff like that happens. So growth, boom, recession, slump, recovery. Growth, boom, recession, slump, recovery. Growth, boom. So you should explain to people that economies don't grow at a constant rate, but they grow, though they go through periods of growth and periods of decline. This happens to economies. And when economies are going through this, it affects the business. It has an impact on the business. We care about this, the impact on the business. Because guess what? When it's going through growth, then we have growth in the business as well. So if there is growth in the economy, the sales are rising, the profits are rising, the business is going through its own growth. Boom. When there is a boom, a rapid economic growth, oh, things are at their best. There's a boom in the economy. Then we have high profits, we have high demand. So that means we have high sales, right? Okay. Then now we go through recession. 6 months of a falling GDP. If GDP falls, a lot of things happen. We saw the things that happen. I'll look at it. But here, sales and profit now also begin to fall. The business is being affected as well. The GDP is falling. The sales of the business will also fall. GDP, what is it? It is the total value of all the goods and services that are produced by a country in a year. So we're saying the productivity of a country has been affected. It is going down right now. So what happens? Your sales will go down because people don't have money. Your profits will fall. What about a slump? A slump is when there is a long period of economic decline, of falling GDP. After a long period, not only 2 consecutive quarters, a quarter is 3 months. That's when you have 2 consecutive quarters of falling GDP, we say the economy is in recession. But when there is a long period of economic decline, then we say the economy is in a slump. When the economy is in a slump, that means there is high unemployment and some businesses fail. There is business failures. Then the economy can go through a period of recovery where it starts to improve. Well, the business will start to improve itself. The demand begins to rise again. So you must know what happens in the economy. Economies do not go through a constant rate or growth rate. Economies don't grow at a constant rate. They don't just grow. The economy is improving. That's what people think in their minds. But in reality, that is not what happens. And you must make sure everybody understands that. Right? Everybody in this class. Now, so that's the business cycle. We explained the GDP. We talked about it, this word GDP. Okay? And we saw what happens when it falls. Did we write that? When GDP increases, here, the effects of a falling GDP. Okay? So this is where we had ended. Oh, okay. Effects of a falling GDP. We said you should learn to talk about consumers, you should talk about workers, you should talk about the business, you should talk about the government. What happens to consumers? They spend less. What happens to workers? They do not have job security. Okay? The place where they are working can just close. Businesses have lower sales. Okay, Akiana, okay, no problem. Businesses have lower sales, less sales. And governments are going to get less income from tax. Do you remember what we talked about when we said that growth can lead to more growth? Do you remember? Growth can, if the economy gets better. Oh, I think this was in economics. Okay, it was not in here. I did not explain it to this class. Okay, it's not a problem. Let me just give you this. I'll explain to you what I want to explain. But let's move on. I talked about what happens when the GDP increases to businesses. Businesses, they can sell more. What happens? Workers have job security. Okay. What happens? Consumers have higher income, so they are spending more. What happens? The government gets more tax. So you must be able to just write these points in the positive and in the negative. You should be able to talk about the governments. You should be able to talk about the workers, the consumers. You should be able to talk about the businesses. Businesses have more sales or do they have less sales? Do they have more profits or do they have less profits? Depending on the GDP. When the GDP is rising, businesses have more profits, they have more sales, okay, more demand. When the GDP is falling, businesses have less sales, they have less demand, okay, they have less profits. Governments have less income from tax. Uh, People who spend, consumers, they spend less because they have less income. When the GDP is rising, consumers have higher income, they spend more. They have what we call, last time, do you remember? We said, uh, this word always leaves me, but I always like to explain it to people. What is it? Disposable income. They have more disposable income, which means that they are able to take care of all their bills and remain with money to go and spend. So consumers have higher income, they spend more. Right. And workers have more jobs, they have job security. Now, let's go to talk about a recession. Let's move on. Write this with me. Things that you're expected to know. Let's see the things that you're expected to know about a recession. We said a recession occurs. Let me write down. Write with me first. A recession occurs when GDP falls for two consecutive two consecutive quarters. What's a quarter? 3 months. So if the GDP is falling for 6 months, hey, then the economy is in a bad state, in a state called recession. What happens? Characteristics of a recession. Basically, we are saying what happens during a recession. The GDP is falling. We said it. It's falling and it has been falling for 6 months. Woo! So you can say falling GDP. Okay. Characteristics of a recession. One, there is a falling GDP. The GDP should be falling. Then incomes are falling. Falling incomes. So consumers are spending less. They have less money. This is real life we're talking about, guys. Falling demand for businesses. Okay? Businesses are struggling. People don't want to buy. A recession is a bad thing. Falling profits for business owners that were employing people. Now they have less profits, so they start releasing workers. And you have rising unemployment. These are things that happen during a recession. And you have low confidence. You have low confidence. Managers are no longer trying to expand the business, bring in new workers, try out the different things. No. Low confidence. Are we together? Okay. Yeah. These here, where we say that demand falls, profit fall, low confidence, these are impacts on a business. These are impacts that are, so let's write them to say impacts of recession on a business. Because you are doing business studies, you are interested in all these things. How do they impact a business? We can't just study recessions. We're not in economics where we are studying economy, where we're studying the economy itself. No, we need to know the impacts on businesses. What happens when there is a recession? GDP falling. What happens? We said one, demand falls. Okay? Why? Because consumers buy less or buy fewer products. Nobody's buying cheese. Nobody's buying yogurt. Consumers are buying fewer products, only bread and meat and vegetables, because incomes fall. The economy is going through a recession. So I'm sure right now, you people as students of business studies, when you to less sales, which leads to lower profits. Demand falls, profit, the sales fall, profit reduces. Your profits will not be the same as a business owner. Investments fall. Everything is falling because the GDP is falling for too long. 6 months, it just keeps falling. Businesses, things will change. Businesses delay expansion plans. How do you expand in a falling economy? How? Where is your confidence, sir, to do such a move? So, right to say, confidence falls. What are you saying? Managers become cautious. Managers become cautious. Are we together? This is what happens during a recession. What about if the economy gets into a slump? Skip 2 lines and write the word slump. Ooh. A slump is an extended period, longer than 6 months, of negative GDP, growth. Obviously, it means GDP is falling. It has fallen so low now. It's in the negative GDP growth. Whew. Here are the characteristics. One, high unemployment. Two, business failures. Imagine you are running a business, then you see you no longer have competition. This furniture shop has closed. The other furniture shop has closed. The other furniture shop has closed. You're the only furniture shop that has remained. That is remaining. It's because businesses are failing. There is a slump. Falling incomes. This is bad news. This is bad news. Falling profits. Do you see why companies don't just invest? Because the economy can have a direct impact on them. You hear me? So how would they just invest? Impact of a slump on businesses. One, fewer customers. Okay. So there is high unemployment. Okay. So you have less customers. Two, lower spending. Or let's say less profits. Why? Falling incomes, because we said there are falling incomes in a slum. So falling incomes lead to less spending. Falling incomes lead to less spending, which leads to lower profits. 3, lower investment. Falling profits lead to businesses delaying investments. They don't just expand because the profits are falling. Government actions. The government will now intervene and do some actions to start to give people hampers, something called welfare benefits, free healthcare, free this. Things to go and farm. Then you hear that the government is giving free male cattle per each household, or things like that. Just looking for things, ways to alleviate the burden. So governments now try to step in. Governments often increase 1, welfare benefits. 2, infrastructure spending. Then 3, public projects. What is this to do? Why would the government start doing projects in a slump? The purpose of all this is to stimulate demand and restart economic growth. Are we together? It's trying to create a demand for things. It's trying to create jobs. Because if it creates these temporary jobs, even though they are temporary, they will cause some people to have money and start spending again. And they can restart economic growth. Are we together? All right. Talked about recession and slump. What happens during growth phase? Growth stage. Growth is a period of increasing GDP. Growth is a period of increasing GDP. Okay. What happens, or let's say, characteristics of growth phase? What happens during the growth phase of an economy? And then we see what impact it has on businesses. These are some of the things we've said already. One, consumer spending increases. Two, business sales increase. These things are also growing because the economy is growing. The GDP is increasing. Are we together? Good. Three, employment, not unemployment, but employment rises. Profits rise. Investment increases. These are all, these three are impacts to a business. The sales increase, the profits rise, the investment increases. These are impacts to a business. So impacts on a business. What do we expect to see on a business during this stage? Businesses, okay, during growth stage of an economy. Businesses experience one, more customers. Okay? More customers. Why? Employment is rising. So if employment is rising, people have money. So month end you expect it to be very busy. Two, okay, higher demand. It's almost the same thing. Higher demand, let me say more customers in brackets, say higher demand. Then say increased profits. Why? Higher demand leads to higher or to more sales, which leads to more profits. Then the third one is investment opportunities. Okay? Investment opportunities. Why? Because the profits rose. The profits have increased. Okay? Investment opportunities are sometimes called expansion opportunities. Okay? Right. Now, what I'm left with talking about is unemployment and inflation. Talk about inflation and taxes. Then we'll see how it goes. You can see my time is already up, but we meet again on Sunday to continue this. So I'll send you a few questions. You get used to it, okay? Once you've picked up momentum. So I want you to get used to. I give you some things, you quickly write, you quickly put it down, and then I give you a few questions for you to try out. Then after you try out those few questions, then we move to the next. So the questions, you do it at your own time. On Sunday we have to talk about inflation and taxation, and you need to have all these things. These are going to be important. Just keep having them. Just keep putting them down. I'll try to give you some more that you do at your own time, but you barely have time. So tomorrow I'll be doing that run for those remember maths, and I'll put the things on the video on the site. So I need to put them on the site. But what I do is when I'm recording for the site, I allow people to join in and watch. So I may start today midnight. I'll just put the link in the group. It's not mandatory. You can join if you want to be doing maths with me, doing questions. I'll be recording piece by piece. So you can just join and we do the questions. Have I made myself clear? No problem. We meet on Sunday for business studies. Goodbye. I'll send you the questions, do them, and submit. Bye.